Hiya! Do you like the idea of creating a visual journal for your tarot practice? If so, today's video I'm going to share with you how I create my pages for my visual journal for tarot. This focuses on drawing and painting. Stick around and I'll show you exactly what I do. Visual journaling is a wonderful way to connect with the cards on a deeper level. Do comment below if you have your own visual tarot journal. So apologies for the creative chaos. I wasn't actually going to do a video today, but today's daily pull inspired me to create this video, and I will explain more as we go through the video. So today I pulled the Goat card from Season of the Witch Beltane edition, and in my previous visual journal video I said that I don't meditate with the images quite as much as I did when I began doing this process, but today I felt compelled to do a meditation, and part of that meditation was a strong urge to create this video. After pulling this card, I studied it and looked at some of the images on here, and the thing that stood out to me was the third eye of the goat, and I made a decision not to read the booklet and just to head straight into the meditation. Before I get started on this, I'm just going to share with you the materials and resources that I have to do this, and I do try to keep it fairly simple, just for a bit of visual inspiration. Because I won't have access to my phone to look up images of goats, I've pulled other goat cards from other decks. So this is the Two of Pentacles from the Orion's Tarot, this one, Three of Cups from Hush Tarot, and this is the Goat card from Stacey DeMarco's Divine Spirit Animals, I think it's called. So I'm just going to have these propped up just to refer to just when it comes to drawing the goat. In terms of materials, I will be using some watercolours, and these pencils here, which are Derwent Inktense pencils. So these act and behave like a watercolour pencil. The only difference is the colour is a lot stronger pigments, and I think once they've dried, they don't become watery again like traditional watercolor pencils do. So this means that you can layer up the colors, and I quite like working with the two and combining them, which hopefully I will show you later. Off camera I also have a hairdryer because I'm probably going to put a background color down first, and I'll need to dry that, which is something I do and I don't use, but it's there just in case I need it. I also have a pot of water, and I find these little plastic droppers really useful because sometimes I will drop the water into the individual colours just to help loosen them up a little bit. I also have a range of different brushes, and this big brush is really useful for putting base colour down. So let's get started. I also have my visual journal. This is the last page that I did, and I'm actually going to come back to this later on in the video. Now, as I was meditating, for some reason the image seemed to be in portrait orientation, so it's not ideal trying to do a portrait image on a landscape video format, but we'll see how this goes on. So when I'm journaling, I don't spend too much time thinking about colours, but I did have a very strong sense of green, and it was quite a light green, so I'm just going to put a base colour of green. I'm actually going to get my water dropper here and place it, and I very loosely load the brush. Something I forgot to do, and sometimes I quite often do, will just cover the page with plain water using this broad brush, and then put watery paint on top, and you get some quite interesting effects. And you know, it's quite nice to allow the colour to pool in certain areas, and then you get this nice variation and sort of texture. And I'm quite into different textures and gradients. So I've just dried my page. Sometimes I do leave it wet and will work directly onto the wet background with the Inktense pencils, and they will sort of bleed into each other. And I might do a bit of that later. I haven't quite decided. So once I'm happy with the background, I will then just go in and draw the image. I'm really not trying to be too precious about this, and if it doesn't end up looking like a goat, it's not the end of the world. Whilst I was doing this meditation, I really asked the goat what message he had for me today. And you know, this is quite often what I do with my practice, regardless of whether I'm doing the visual journal or not. And to help me sort of tune into the goat, as I said, there was this kind of third eye on the goat's forehead, so I was sort of trying to channel in to the goat, and I was picturing the goats that we had in my previous employments, and they quite often used to stand on these wooden platforms that the team had created for them to just kind of like engage them, really. I think he's going to have to be sat down because I'm trying to draw this whilst on camera. It's not quite the image I had in mind, but we'll go with what comes out. I've got a very faint goat there, and this very strong image of a goat sitting at the top of a hill came into mind, and the phrase "be the king of your castle" came through. So this idea of sort of being high up, just basically owning your land, owning your terrain. And I'll put those words on here, I think. And I think they'll go round. I'll use one of my pencils. So I'm going to stick with greens, I think. After all, we are in end of May and sort of Beltane season where everything is very green and luscious. So yeah, be the king of your own castle, which for me I've interpreted of, you know, if you've got an idea, if you've got a goal, you know, own it and just don't hold back, which I think is a really powerful visualization. When I'm doing the lettering, yeah, sometimes I will try and do fancy lettering, but for the purpose of journaling, you just need to get the words on there. I mean, I could just handwrite these if I really wanted to, but I quite like to do it in bubble writing to help it stand out. And I've been doing lettering for years, so I can do it quite quickly now. The other image that came through was, you know, he's standing on his castle or his territory. There's this idea of, you know, own your idea, but also don't be afraid to defend it. If people challenge you about what you're doing, what your plans are, have the confidence to say, actually, no, this is what I want, this is what I believe. So very powerful energy here, I think, with this goat. Be the king of your castle. So having to say it as I do it, because obviously saying different words whilst writing other words is a bit of a challenge. Be the king of your castle. And the other message that came through, as I mentioned, the third eye, I don't know where this sentence came from, but was, don't be afraid to look into my eye to see your future success, which I thought was really interesting. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I didn't actually read the meaning of the book, from the book, until after the meditation, and I'll share with you what the book says about this card. So I'm just going to finish off all the writing and probably put this on time lapse. So I just decided to combine the first two sentences that came to me, which was be the king of your castle, don't be afraid to defend your ground, and put be the king of your castle and to defend your train. I think probably what I'm going to do is put the element about looking into the goat's eye up here, and then obviously give the goat some colour. Again, I'm just going to probably pop you on time lapse for that. And so one of the other things I was thinking whilst I was doing this, obviously we have this goat here, and it just made me think of kind of Capricorn energy, which obviously Capricorns are associated with kind of hardworking, ambitious, and that was the other vibe that was coming through from this. And I think that's all linked, really, if you think about sort of defending your castle, defending your ideas, your goals, and also thinking about how you can become successful. So let's see what the card actually says in the book. And really, I think it was quite spot on. Goat, confidence and sure-footedness. And the invocation is fearless, I am in the path I choose, for I've never been led astray, always finding my way. Goat is a wonderful card to receive, its presence in your reading being a sign that ideas, opportunities and projects are entering your life at this time. You may not see this taking place just yet, but trust that things are happening behind the scenes and will soon become known to you. Your task when receiving this card is to believe in yourself and your gifts. Have you been afraid to reach for bigger goals? Have you limited yourself because you do not believe you are capable of achieving greater things? Goat is here to challenge you to step outside of your comfort zone and scale a bigger mountain. As goats only need a few inches of space to keep their footing, you only need to take small steps to work towards your dreams. You may not have what you need to cross the finish line, but each small action pushes you one step closer. Perhaps you have already achieved much, but wonder if you can reach even greater heights. No matter your step on the success journey, know that talent is only part of the equation. The only thing truly needed to rise is believing that you can. The rest can be learned as you go. And so after reading that, I thought that what I'd collected from this visualization and meditation really kind of summarized and was kind of the core and the essence from the meaning of this card. Now, I might go back and possibly fill in these letters to make them stand out a little bit more, but I won't do that on camera. I will probably go away and do that later. If you like the idea of doing a journal page and you're still struggling with maybe coming up with ideas for images, these are some of the things that I do. So this was the previous page that I did, and this was actually inspired by the horse chestnut card from the Tree of Life Oracle by Lisa McLaughlin. And this one is life lessons. You may be making the same mistake over and over again and never seem to learn from the experiences. Ruminating thoughts can creep in and monopolize your mind, affecting your self-expression. And you'll see what I came up with is quite different to the original image. And for some reason, when I was looking at the meaning of this card, and obviously it said about ruminating and this idea of negative thought patterns, I started to think about kind of foliage and the horse chestnut tree growing out of my head, which made me think of some of the images in the Hush Tarot, which has a lot of kind of plants growing out of bodies and decaying matter and skulls. So I pulled these cards out really just for some inspiration. And you know what, it's totally fine to copy these images in your personal journal. I don't see a problem with that. You know, artists have been using other artwork to inspire them. It only becomes a problem when we start taking these images exactly and then claiming them as our own. But I think for exploring the cards, this is totally okay. And so I started drawing a head, kind of cracked the head open and went with the tree. And then, yeah, sort of was inspired by that. But I happened to be listening to some music, and this is the second thing that I'm going to suggest to you. So this line here, "Cut me up to see what's wrong," happened to be playing on the track that I was listening to whilst I was doing it. And straight away I thought, you know what, that's really relevant to this piece that I'm doing. So the idea of cutting the head open to see what is going to blossom out, or erupt out, should I say, a bit like if you've seen those creepy footages of the mushrooms that are parasitic to wasps and they grow out the wasp's head. I think that's the vibe I was also going with that. And I've also added in ivy. This is quite a common theme for me, the sort of the tangle of thoughts sort of strangling the other stuff that wants to come out of my head, and sort of self-expression. So if you have things that you're drawn to, don't be afraid to add these symbols in to, or yeah, go with that and explore these sort of personal symbols, which brings me on to the third suggestion I have. And this idea came from The Healing Dull Way by Barb Cobe, and she uses journaling to create these healing dolls, which I know is a little bit of an aside step to tarot, but I think these principles can apply with your tarot journal. Is to write your response to the oracle card you have selected using your non-dominant hand. This page was exploring personal symbols and what they mean to me. If you're struggling to get some messages from the card or from this journaling piece that you're trying to do. I'd already written the keywords here in my dominant right hand, and so I could have then responded to these writing in my left hand to see what I could unlock from my subconscious. If you're struggling, give that a go, and if you do, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me today and exploring how to create your visual tarot journal with me. I hope you found that useful. If you did, fancy giving it a cheeky like, it's always appreciated. And if you've tried out some of the techniques today, do comment below and let me know how you got on. I'm Sally, this is my channel, Vaudeville Manor, House of Art and Tarot, and until the next video, here are a couple of other videos that you can watch in the meantime. Bye bye.